Hello, everybody. Gather the Nerds, episode 25 with video. Hey.
Yeah, hey, we're here.
Yeah, so we're doing, we mentioned this a couple weeks ago. We're going to do kind of a new Origins episode. We were supposed to record this last week. Then the plague hit Nick's house.
Uh-huh. Yes, it did.
And Nick emerged unscathed, but I wasn't willing to risk the fact he might be a carrier. I've seen too many zombie movies and too many Resident Evil movies to allow that to happen.
Well, it was a definite possibility. I had my moments where I was questioning my own health. I was wondering if I was sick or not. You know, it's like that nervousness of you've dealt with somebody that's so sick, and then all of a sudden, oh, okay, I'm all right.
Yeah, where it's in your head is more than anything. So what we wanted to do for episode 25 is something a little different. You know, when you're doing a podcast like this, you don't ever really know when somebody's going to jump on and start listening. And so, you know, sometimes it seems a little difficult to go back to episode 1 to catch up because our shows tend to run a little long. We tend to run an hour and a half, hour and 45
easily, yeah.
And that's tough to get caught up on sometimes. And so, you know, we decided, you know, every 25-ish episodes, which will end up being about twice a year, just kind of rehash the story, add some new tidbits that we'd since forgotten about. We're far more comfortable now than we were in episode 1.
Yeah, it's almost hurt. It almost hurts to listen to episode 1, the true episode 1.
It really does. And so, you know, we're going to kind of go through some things. So you might have heard some of this, but, you know, there'll be some new tidbits in there as well. You know, our biggest thing about recording this podcast, you know, has always been about just, you know, a place that people can listen to be about they can be nerdy about anything. You know,
absolutely.
Our topics, man, they go everywhere. You know, we focus a lot on, you know, movies and TV and comics and things like that. But we talk about, you know, comic art, and we talk about, sports. We'll talk about science, just whatever kind of happens to run across the web that week. Yeah. We'll kind of talk through that stuff and, you know, just kind of, you know, sit back and enjoy it. You know, I guess we should go back to the beginning, which is, you know, how we even...
So in 1982, I was born... Oh, not that beginning?
Yeah,
the beginning?
The other beginning.
Okay, all right.
So what some of you may or may not know, depending on when you've jumped on this, is Nick and I used to race bikes.
Yeah.
Think Lance Armstrong, not motorcycles, no drugs.
Definitely no drugs.
So we used to race bikes together. I stopped a while ago, but you know, it's when you're out on the road for as long as we are, because, you know, training for some of this stuff, we're out on the road for what, 2-3 hours
easily,
at a time?
Yeah, easily. I mean, I think back to when you lived at the old house right before this house, and I mean, we would leave that area, get back at like noon. I mean, it was a 3-4 hour ride easily. Now, granted, part of that was because I was slower than him, so he had to wait on me. But you know, yeah, I mean, you have to figure out something to talk about. You can't just sit there and stare at each other. And frankly, it's not safe when you're in a group to listen to music. I mean, I know a lot of people do, but it's just not really that safe. So we talk. And one of the things that we actually started talking about, like the second time I was ever with Cav, because when I started out, I started riding just kind of by myself in my neighborhood, and then I joined into some groups, and Cav was in that group. And about second or third ride, we start talking about nerd stuff, and that was it. I mean, you know, from that point forward, it was anytime we're together, we're talking about tech stuff, we're talking about comics and that kind of thing. And then from that point, over the years, you know, we've just developed a friendship, and decided one day randomly to go to Comic-Con. Well, you invited me is what it was. We were talking about Comic-Cons, and I think I might have said, like, man, I really miss going to those things because locally there really wasn't much. Mm-hmm. And you said, oh, well, I've got a ticket if you want to go, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so anyway, got lucky on that one and managed to go, and so that was that sealed the deal for me on that one in terms of going.
So we started going to conventions, and then, you know, the conventions for us typically, you know, the big ones that we go to a lot are in Dallas. And something new too, we do have some new toys, and you might see this online. We are also recording video.
Hello. We're trying.
And so you're going to see our ugly mugs. We're going to do some video on some sections, and because we've done some unboxing and stuff. But
yep.
But back to the story. So
sure.
You know, coming back from Fan Expo Dallas, which was the big Dallas show that typically a summer show.
And this was it was over the summer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've already gone to one prior to this.
Yeah.
Actually, two, I guess, because we went to Fan Days as well.
Yeah, we went. It probably would have been Fan Days October, Fan Days February.
And then several locals.
Yeah.
So we've developed this relationship ahead of time.
So. Oh yeah, and so we go and we're coming back from Dallas. The thing about Dallas, we're in Oklahoma, and so when you're talking about Dallas, it's 3.5, 4 hours, and like Nick mentioned, like on the bike ride, we just talk about this stuff. And so on one fateful drive home, right. Which was a late drive home, as Nick reminded me.
Very late, yeah. We were in line for Jay and Silent Bob together to get pictures, and they had some flight issues, and so naturally that pushed everything back. But I mean, you're not going to leave, you know. And so that was that. It was an incredibly late night. Getting back, I feel like we got back maybe about 8 or 9. Which doesn't seem like it's very late when you just say it like we got home at 8 or 9.
Yeah.
But when you drive for 4 hours after being gone all weekend and you have to go to work the next day, that's not a lot of time to recover.
And having been on your feet for 3 straight days.
Right.
I mean, and that's the thing, about cons is like, especially the Dallas con, other than panels, you're on your feet constantly from 10 in the morning to 6 or 7 at night.
Even if you're just wandering.
Yeah, and we wander a lot. And so on this drive home, we're talking about, just stuff because we both listen to podcasts. We're like, we should just start recording these conversations for the fun of it.
Yeah.
And, that conversation happened, and we both get home, we're tired. And the subject kind of gets dropped for a couple of weeks, I felt like, something like that. And then a very brief text message exchange occurs.
Yeah, so I'm in New Orleans, and I'm at a conference, and Cav, of all people, you just have to know him. And hopefully through this podcast you kind of get a bit of his personality. But when he sets his mind to something, he's going to do it. And so he texts me and says, "Are you serious about this podcast? Because I totally want to do it." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm down." He was like, "Good, because I've already ordered the stuff." And I'm like, "Okay." So you basically just asked to make sure that you didn't need to return it. like he was going to do it either way. So I'm just glad he let me on the ship.
And so I just kind of got in one of those things, and I. Ordered everything, and then since then we've added a few things, and so it's been fun. But the key for us, and I mentioned this before, there's 2 things that I've learned about on the podcast, especially this particular podcast, which is we always just want to be inclusive. Like that's always been our thing, and so that's why our topics are so varied and all of those things. But there's nothing like hearing yourself on audio.
It's weird, isn't it?
It's terrible.
Yeah.
So Nick handles a lot of the social media for the podcast and things like that, and I do most of the tech behind the scenes. I cut the shows and do all that stuff. So I'm listening to the shows a lot. And for the first several episodes, I'm just like, that is not my voice. Who is who is doing this thing? And you learn about all your bad habits, and I'm sure that the listeners that are out there, like, you do this, and you do this. I know. I can't, I'm trying to consciously stop doing it. I get.
He just did it.
I just did it. Here's the thing. That's like my go-to phrase.
Your catchphrase.
That is my catchphrase, and I will do like a summary repetition of whatever you just said.
True.
And so I do that, and I'm aware of it. And I'm working on it, so just bear with us. So
it's all good. It makes you.
It's funny when you don't, like, in normal conversation, you would never register.
Here's the thing. You're right.
Exactly. And so it's been really fun to kind of do this and sit down. Like I said, we're 25 episodes in.
Yeah. And
we just do it for the fun of it. Like, we just sit down and we're having these conversations anyways. We just wait until Sunday now to have these conversations. So
well, and that's what that was also one of the things about not only being inclusive, but just keeping it fun. Because neither one of us want this to become something that we've just got to create. Like, if it's not fun, what's the point in doing it? You know what I mean? If people start liking it, subscribing, and you guys want shirts and all that kind of stuff, that's awesome. That's like icing on the cake for us. But in terms of just recording and all that, like, it's stress free.
Yeah.
I mean, we really don't push each other, and if he's got something going on, then I'm like, all right, let's just wait, or vice versa even. And that's part of the reason why I think people like the podcast, the people that are listening to it. I hope that's at least why, because you feel like it's just a place to be. It's just a hangout. It's like Cheers.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting. Interesting's another phrase I use a lot. The people that we've talked to that do listen to the show, and some of the funny stories you get, and it's it's been fun. So like I said, we're doing some video right now too, and my video screen is turned off. There it is. Hello. And so there might be a few little pauses in and out as we record this episode because we're going to record some clips to post them up on YouTube. But 2017 for us is going to be a big push, from in just the digital media space.
Yeah.
We're going to get into, YouTube, and, Nick already runs the Instagram and Twitter and all that other stuff. And so, we're going to keep pushing harder. And like I said, we've got shirts. And so shirts are something that's easy for us to do now. And, for us, the biggest thing, like if you subscribe to our podcast, yeah, that's true. Nick's wearing one. I've got one under the hoodie here. But it's if you subscribe, that's great. We really appreciate that. Also, what's huge for us is iTunes ratings. Like, you can be honest about it. I'm not my feelings aren't going to be hurt, but 5 stars is better. And so, because the more ratings we get, the more opportunities open up for us, for people. And, for example, Nick and I are going to Denver Comic-Con because Nick's going to be there for another conference around the same time.
Yep.
And, we're going to try and get press credentials.
Hopefully.
And if we can get press credentials, then we can sit down and bring you cool content and talk to people and things like that. So we're going to keep doing those things, and we need your help to do that, with, subscriptions and iTunes ratings and things like that. So if you got a minute, go throw some stars up, subscribe, and we'll hopefully bring you some more stuff. So, yeah, all right. So we're going to cut the video off before we get into, like, our real origin story.
Okay.
Let's see.